What's up, guys? Welcome to Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin, here to talk some Green Bay Packers. Dip our toe into the free agent market a little bit this morning. Also talk some draft prospects that have been linked to the Packers as well. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome morning here on this glorious Sunday, February 16th, as the flooding is starting to subside down here, and now there's a cold front roll through. So it is February in Tennessee. Jacob, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's good to see that Hugh Jass is here. Morning, boys, he says.
Mr. Jass has he's blessed us with his presence a couple times.
Okay.
I would refer to him as Mr. Jass, and then point out his first name is Hugh. So gotta love it. I see the chat's already lit up, and it's funny, man. Great minds think alike. We were already steering the conversation towards the free agent market this morning. Lo and behold, everybody jumps into the chat here, and that's exactly what they're talking about. As Patrick gets us kicked off, says Drew Dalman seems like a good fit, talking about for the Packers. Let me hit this one real quick, and we'll come back to Dalman because that's where the conversation goes. Patrick said, any news on John Eric Sullivan? So the latest is he is a finalist. As of right now, there's two more people. He and another gentleman, I think the Chicago Bears assistant GM, they have been set up to interview again. Now, there could be more of that top five list to get another interview as well. But it sounds to me like John Eric Sullivan is probably a member of the final two, maybe three candidates. So fingers crossed that they go in a different direction. But, I mean, I got to be honest, when I seen it was someone from the Bears front office and someone from the Packers front office, I'm thinking – they'll probably go with the Packers front office, I would imagine. I haven't seen anything from the Bears to go, boy, they really know what they're doing over there. So you guys got any thoughts on John Eric Sullivan before we go back to Drew Dalman here? I just wanted to hit that before we moved on.
No.
Tim sipping the coffee.
Tim's getting the coffee.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mart84 in the chat says, good Sunday morning, everyone. I wouldn't understand why the Falcons would let Dalman go, especially in a year like this where very few centers in the draft and Penix as a starter. I could not agree more with that opinion. And this is what we're talking about here. When you look at the PFF grades amongst centers, right? Creed Humphrey, 92.4. Frank Ragnow, 86.1. Tyler Linderbaum, you guys remember him from the draft, 79.9. Drew Dalman, 78.8. And you guys remember we were real high on Zach Frazier as well, right? Yeah. Zach Frazier, 77.9. Hijalt Froholt, if I'm saying that right, sounds like a character from Lord of the Rings, 76.1. And then, of course, Wisconsin, right? Joe Tippmann. Am I thinking right there, Jacob? He was a Wisconsin boy, Joe Tippmann?
Pretty sure, yeah. Yeah,
he had a 73.4 for the Jets there. All these guys, you can see the snap count. Drew Dalman with the obviously with the lowest snap count, it appears, at 554. So we need to do a little research as to why that happened. But when you look at Drew, I mean, this dude, I think he's a solid pickup for anyone who would want him. But I understand what Mart 84 is saying here, man. I have a hard time believing the Falcons are just go, yeah, we don't need him. Let's let him walk. I don't understand their roster to a T. They may have someone better in line to step in. I have a hard time believing that, though. But Drew's PFF grades, 78.8, 82.3, 65.9, and 78.3 there. So the thing that gets me, and there's a snap count. So it looks like he dealt with an injury week 4 through 12 and then came back and was healthy the rest of the year. So no reason to think that he's not ready to go this season. Listen, I understand there are some people – I hate this website with a passion. There are some people that still like, Josh Myers, and I was having some conversations on Twitter. I had folks DMing me about it. I can't continue. He played better last year. Okay, that's wonderful. He played better.
Good Lord.
When are we going to put a priority on center? That's the question. His grade was a 54.2. And if you look at his career, 54.2, 54.7, 60.4, 54.9. Immediately people go, but Clayton, PFF isn't everything. Completely agree. He had the third most pressures allowed amongst centers last year. And he's supposed to be a pass blocking center. So that's the frustrating part for me. So when it comes to Josh Myers, the floor, 54, the ceiling, 60. All right. And again, as we have to reset everything once again. And we go back to centers here. Drew Dalman, his floor, I think, was a 65, right? And his ceiling has been an 82. Now, immediately people think, how much is it going to cost? According to Spot Track, his calculated market value is $6.8 million average annual value.
Jeez, pay the man.
Pay the man. And here's the thing. People are saying, well, Atlanta will probably want it. If you're telling me we could get a ceiling of 82 and a floor of 65, I'm willing to go as high as $10 million to short that center position. Now, the alternate route for me would be Elton to center, Jordan Morgan to left guard, draft 3 offensive linemen. You're going to hit on one of those, going to be a stud. That's just how Goody rolls. And then you'll have another guy to compete for a position, a little bit more depth. You can go that route too if you want to go on the cheaper side. I could see them doing that. But I did a little study this morning trying to figure out what are the Packers most interested in terms of prospects they've met with. Specific positions, this is how many we've met with so far. 7 defensive linemen, 6 cornerback, 4 edge, 4 wide receiver. Only 3 offensive linemen to this point have the Packers met with. 2 linebackers, 1 tight end, 1 slot corner, and, of course, 1 kicker that nobody wants to talk about, including myself. So with that being said, it's a lot of information. You guys have the floor. I want your all's take. Jacob, you go ahead and start. I think we agree here, man. I'm willing to give him up to $10 million per, in my opinion, to make sure you shore up the center spot or move forward with Elton.
Yeah, it's funny you specifically said that because in my head while you were talking, I was like, he wants 6, let's give him 10. Like if he can be that staple at the center of that offensive line, something that clearly we have not had in a long time. And when we did, I mean, remember back to the days, was it Corey Lindsley? And you didn't really have to worry too much about that position, and you took it probably for granted, to be honest. And so Turtles brings up a good point. He says his friend who is a Falcons fan believes that they have more depth at center. That's why they're willing to possibly let this guy go. I mean, that was a pretty good rotation there at center to let the 4th best center go. But if that's the fact, cool. We'll take that all day of the week. I don't know about you, Tim, but I'd love to have a guy like this on our team. You're muted, Timmy.
God, I am not awake at all. All right.
It's all good, buddy. No,
I thought
Josh anyway, so
Josh was playing his best football last year, right?
At a 65?
I mean, that's what everyone on that staff said. I mean, he's he was
the best guy around.
I mean, so I don't know. Do we? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, obviously you go after this guy. Pay him what you need. We've got to improve at center. I've always been a fan of Elton staying right the hell where he is and not moving. You guys know that. I have not been shy about saying that. I like him as a left guard. So if you get a center in here, I think it just by default makes our O-line even deeper because we've got guys that can stay where they are, and then we have rotational guys behind them. So I say you do. Take a crack at this guy. Here's the gap.
So Turtles brings up a good point saying about all these top teams have elite centers. Clayton, I know, has brought that up in the past, how when you look at the playoff teams, I mean, it was like 7 out of 8 of them were elite, almost elite type talent. And we've looked at that in the draft. You know I got raked over the coals last year because I believe I tried to draft Zach Frazier in the first round, and people were like, "You idiot." And I was like, dude, he's good. Same thing that they said back in the day about Creed Humphrey and Linderbaum and a bunch of these dudes. But look at them. They're the top 10 of the league right now, and they just so happen to coincide and have a straight correlation with the top teams in the league. So I don't know, man. I think Clayton was right. The center position is maybe one of the most important positions that people overlook.
And Zach Frazier was our 2nd best center on the board last year, only behind Jackson Powers Johnson. Then after that, we had Christian Haynes. And I say center, it's interior offensive line. So Zach Frazier was hands down the best center. Some people seen Jackson Powers Johnson as, just interior offensive line in general. We had him listed as a center. And then the next best center would have been Cedric Von Prawn out of Georgia, significantly lower. Bo Lemer, a little bit lower than that. And then, Tanner Bortolini, we had him as kind of a center / guard. He was one of those versatile guys. But, yeah, hands down, Zach Frazier was was our best center because some people did not see Jackson Powers Johnson as a true center, which blew my mind. I thought he was a true center. Someone asked in the chat there, I don't know who it is. I've got a different screen pulled up right now. How was his pass blocking, Drew Dalman? That's not his strength. There's no two ways about it. In 2021, 40, 55, 53, and then he jumped to a 66 last year. So that was his best year pass blocking. So he's definitely a mauler. He's a run blocking center. There's no doubt about it. That could be enough to steer Goody away from it. Again, I will not be surprised if they bring back Josh Myers. What Tim said, that comment they made, I don't think that was BS. I think they believe that. I do. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, again, I say it all the time. I know y'all get tired of hearing me say it. I'm not going to say, what the hell are these guys doing? They don't know what they're doing over there, man. They don't understand player evaluation. I've heard people say, you got to watch the tape. I turn on the tape and I'm going, this dude's whiffing a lot, boys. I don't know what do you think we're seeing here. Well, look at this play. Okay, great. You picked one play out of how many on the season to show him make a good block. That's not how offensive line works. Like, go listen to Brian Bulaga when he's on the Weldy and Tao show. He's like, the thing that sucks about an offensive lineman, an edge defender can have 9 good snaps in a season and get 9 sacks. Oh, he's a great edge defender. An offensive lineman can have 2 bad reps all year long. He's a horrible offensive lineman, right? So you got to kind of take all that and run it through the
like when we were talking about Josh yesterday, and you're like, oh, yeah, he really doesn't have a problem getting to the next level. We see him do it. It's just once he gets there,
right,
he whiffs.
And listen, that's easier said than done, right, Tim?
Yeah.
We talk about it as if it's just block the damn guy. What are you doing? It's tough, especially when you get that big of a body moving. But, yeah. So with the pass blocking grade here with Drew Dalman, it's worth mentioning it's not like he's the perfect free agent, right? I think he's hands down better than Josh Myers.
Is there any way to look at his career pass blocking grade? I don't know if that's easy for you to pull up because maybe he had a down. I mean, even we're sitting here scoffing at a 66.6, guys. That's 12th out of 39 gradable centers. Like you look at his run blocking grade, I can't quite see it because of the comment. Let me see. Oh, there you go. 5th. Okay, so if you're telling me that we're gonna, going into the future of this team, at least in the next year or two, I'd argue what's more important, being able to run block with Josh Jacobs just absolutely battering that defensive line, or is it maybe I'll still take the 12th best pass blocking center when you've got 2 hopefully stud guards next to him. I know we got one with Elton, and let's say that Jordan Morgan maybe pops in or takes a step. Who knows? Maybe even Sean Ryan steps up a little bit there, but I would much rather have a solid, 4th center overall, guys, 78.8. I find it hard to believe that we could do any better right now with what we have at center. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Right. And again, to add to the Creed Humphrey frustration, he was the best pass blocking center in football.
Would you say he's the best guy around?
He was the best guy around.
He was the 3rd best run blocking center, according to this. And then overall, he was the 2nd highest graded. It looks like Eric McCoy in New Orleans is kind of the latest. Hey, this dude looks like a damn good football player, but he only played 293 snaps. Now, you were asking about pass block in terms of his career. I can't, all I can do is just read it off year by year, what his pass blocking grades were. That's what we just did. It was like 40s, 50s, 50s, and then 66. Last year, if you were to sort the center position by pass blocking, Drew Dalman was 23rd in pass blocking. All right. In run blocking, Drew Dalman was 6th in the league. And then, like we said, overall, just offensive grade, Drew Dalman was 5th. So that's what we've got on him. Again, I'm not saying he's like this perfect free agent signing, but if you're going to go after a guy, this is that dude to go after him.
Thick.
There might be some younger guys too that, hey, this guy shows some promise. Maybe he's a little more balanced. I doubt it. We won't have time, obviously, on a live stream to go through and try to comb through and find those guys. Maybe I can do a little research and get you all that information. So, again, just wanted to point that out with Drew Dalman. He's the dude that everybody was talking about here in the chat. Let's make sure we get all these that we starred here. I think we already hit that one. Patrick, he's a good run blocker for zone, but we don't trust stretch zone so much anymore. That's a good point there, not running much stretch zone. Perhaps with Marshawn's return, I could see that being a possibility. Of course, with Marshawn Lloyd, they ran a lot of power, man. They ran a lot of power, a lot of GT. They would even pull the center from time to time. So when I say they, I mean at USC. Showed he's good at power gap running.
That makes sense too. Like my favorite kind of interior offensive lineman that people aren't really talking a lot about was that Jonah Moynihan, I believe is his name, from USC. And I think that he had some snaps at center and both guard, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd be interested to see if maybe the Packers got him maybe in the 3rd or 4th round. I'm not quite sure where he stacks up on your board, Clayton.
You talking about this year's draft, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep, Jonah Moynihan, I believe is his name.
6'5", 310 out of USC. Big old hog molly, graded out at a 70.2 last year, according to PFF.
Let's see here, Monheim. On our board, we have him in the 88 spot.
Here's a guy.
Not bad. PFF 2022, he was the 14th best interior offensive line. I want to say did he play guard, Tim? Is that what? It don't show you the snaps, does it, brother?
I'm looking at, let's see. No, center. He played right guard in 2023, 53 snaps. He played 286 snaps in 2022 at right guard, but 807 snaps last year at center. So definitely made the move to center.
All right, good deal. I'm gonna I'll make sure I put a mark in there for him real quick. Let me go ahead and change that. I'll go center/interior. I'll just go center guard here. Center/guard. That
good call there. I almost forgot about this guy.
Yeah.
I could definitely see him being a potential.
We had him lit up green here. No, we didn't. Okay, it's just because I've got him highlighted. So let me go ahead and throw him in the blue. That way he pops to us a little bit. So, yeah, 14th highest graded at his position in 22, 45th in 23, dropped to 66th in 24. The PFF big board at the time had him at 139. The consensus big board had him at 114. He did not make the top 100. And Daniel Jeremiah, 33rd team, or Dane Brugler. Yeah. So I say he didn't make the top 100. He may be in DJ's. DJ is just at the top 50 so far. So
172 on PFF right now. I don't know if that's changed recently, but that's the most recent one I see for his rank.
And the thing that's bringing him up on our board is obviously his PFF grades. He's shown how good he can be. So, yeah, Jacob, I think that's an interesting for sure, man. No doubt. All right, so there is that. Let's kind of stick in. Let's stick with the chat here. Drew D says, my question is, why would the Falcons let Dalman go if you have a young quarterback there? They're in the hole, but is that really the place you want to save? It's a great point. I think someone had pointed out in the chat that he's got a buddy that's a Falcons fan that said they feel like they have depth there that someone else can step into center position. So if you got that, roll with. It's kind of what I'm talking about with Elton. Is like you already got a guy on the team that's getting paid. Kick him into center if he can be an all-pro level center, which many people have said that about Elton this whole time. You sure up the more important spot at center as opposed to guard, and now you get your first-round pick on the field 100% of the snaps there in Jordan Morgan. That might be a way to go as well. Patrick, if the Falcons pay him, then they want him perhaps salary cap thing. I don't know enough about their cap situation, to be honest with you. Mark 84 says, or Mark 84 says, as Drew said, with the new first-year starter at quarterback, the center should be the last position to save money. Completely agree. Prince in the chat, Packers added center Trey Hill, who got some play with the Bengals, to a futures deal. So that's interesting. Trey Hill's another guy that they added into probably a camp invite there, I'm sure. Fred McFarley, Clayton, have you talked about Trey Hill? I don't think we have. Have we talked about Trey Hill at all, guys?
I don't remember it. He also went on to say Green Bay Packers signed center Trey Hill on January 14th, 2025. Hill, 6'4", 319, a fourth-year player out of the University of Georgia, and was originally selected by the Cincinnati Bengals in the 6th round.
Thick. Okay. Let me see if I can find him on PFF here. Let's go ahead and drop this down, matter of fact. Give me just a second. We'll look him up. Trey Hill, right? Trey Hill's who we're looking for.
Yep. In the meantime, we can say Huge Ass says, being a Michigan fan and a Green Bay fan, I would love if they took a Wolverine. Mason Graham, Will Johnson, Colson Loveland, Kenneth Grant, Miles Hinton, Josiah Stewart. Hey, man, I'm all for getting some Wolverines on there.
Yeah, Grant or Graham for sure on the radar. Definitely.
That'd be cool. Definitely. Yeah.
I'm guessing Trey Hill didn't even play because I'm not seeing anything in terms of grade. Let me just look him up real quick on another screen here.
Sure.
You guys
Jake
go
Cole,
ahead.
in the meantime, is saying, going to be honest, I see the Packers re-signing Josh Myers to a 2 or 3 year term or team-friendly deal. I think that if they were to re-sign him, it would be something like that. Tim, do you see him just bringing him back for like a 1 year kind of stopgap, or does it make more sense like Jay's talking about?
He was the best guy around.
I think so. I mean, it's a good point, right? We've talked about how they feel about Josh there. I mean, could be. You never know.
Yeah.
Why did Josh take a huge step? You never know. He could be an all-pro center this season, you know?
Yeah.
The only thing we got on Trey Hill, guys, is he's on the Packers roster. He's a 6th-round pick, former 6th-round pick in 2021. He's 6'4", 335. To the best of my knowledge, they have 0 snaps for him in his entire career.
So Fred says here, as a rookie, he started 3 games, 2 at center, 1 at right guard. In college, 2018 to 2020, he played 36 games with 26 starts for the Bulldogs. So
okay,
kind
that's
of an unknown. Kind of an unknown there.
Yeah, he definitely played for Georgia too. Yeah, I mean, you don't go to Georgia and be a mediocre player. Like, it just doesn't happen down there.
Right.
So their recruiting is so strong for sure. So I mean, hey, he may be able to turn heads in camp. Now, I always try to run it through the filter of if you had to bet the farm, are you thinking he's gonna do something? Absolutely not. There's a reason the Bengals let him go, and there's a reason that he hasn't played, to the best of my knowledge, a single snap in the NFL. You guys correct me if you find something else on it. At least that's according to PFF's records. So, all right. So there was Drew Dalman. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, real quick. It's kind of off topic, but have y'all seen the footage of Kelce, Travis Kelce, in the Super Bowl, of how many times he just didn't even try? I mean, it was like, it was shocking to the point where it was like, and it was when they were only like 14 down. Early in the game, midway through the game, at the end of the game, people were like, well, the game was out of line. It's like, dude, Mahomes on one of them specifically is scrambling, and he comes back into like within 5 feet of Kelce, and he doesn't even throw a shoulder. I mean, it was.
And the guy that ends up plastering Mahomes was the dude who was covering Kelce. Kelce had no interest whatsoever. And it's not like, well, he didn't know he was scrambling. He's looking at Mahomes the whole time. He kind of throws his hands up and just stares at him, right? It was crazy.
He had no problem after the whistle on every play trying to get crap started, though. He did that all day long, trying to start, little extracurricular fights and stuff on the field. And like I said, I hope the Packers were watching, because Philly did a great job of not letting that DB get in their heads, So I liked it.
All right, so here is the projected free agents on offensive line, just to show you, are there any other centers that might carry some value here? Drew Dalman's way down because this is sorted by average annual value, and obviously he was on his rookie deal, so you can see Drew is a little bit lower if we could find him. I want to say he's down here in this range right here, maybe. What was he at, sir? Anyway, he was down here. He was just over $1 million. I probably already passed it. I'm looking for the Atlanta logo, but I don't see it now. These are the free agents for 2025. Like I said, they got offensive line all. Actually, they did not have them grouped together. We can just go centers. Here we go. So Ryan Kelly out of Indy, $12.5 million was his average annual value. He's going to be 32 years old. Austin Corbett out of Carolina at $8.7 million. Again, these are previous average annual values, not market value. Coleman, 29 years old, out of Chicago. He was set at $3 million. And as you go on down here you got Josh Myers at $1.3 million.
Here's the guy.
You look at this and go, all right, man, 26 years old. Maybe that Josh Myers is good. It's just sort of like a average annual value. And then you see Drew Dalman down here was at $1 million, right? And that's where I got his market value from. So if you were to just go strictly off what teams thought they were worth, again, he's 31 years old, out of Indy. That's Ryan Kelly. Just because Indy thought he was worth that doesn't mean he's worth that, right? But they've got his calculated market value at 1 year, $10.1 million. So there's one of those dudes.
Have we looked at that Nick Harris guy out of Cleveland, 26.2 years old? Does he have any sort of measurables on him? I mean, that again is a little bit younger than Josh. Not quite sure what his height and weight are, but
yeah, let's see, Nick Harris, right? Ckhars. Nick Harris. We got a center out of Cleveland. I'll keep it off the screen so we don't have to slow down the show, jumping back and forth. His PFF grade starting in 2020, 51, 70, 59, 49. Absolute cheeks. He's 6'1", 293. So
That's a little small guy there.
Yeah, little tiny dude. Little tiny guy. Not really, but you get it. So Nick Harris would be a no for me. That's what I was saying, man. Drew Dalman's the one that really popped to me. None of these guys are even going to sniff the top 100, and that's all the free agents that are listed on the top 100 free agency rankings through PFF at the moment. So if you're going strictly off of age, all right, which one of these guys might work out? And the next one is Josh Myers, right? And then you got Robert Hainsey is what his name is there. Let's see if we can find him on PFF. Robert Hainsey. And then we'll kind of move it along and go back to the to the top of the list in terms of other positions here. So Hainsey, however you say his name, 6'4", 306, former third-round pick. PFF grade 65, only 31 snaps, though. Then the next year he jumped to a 66 with 1,100 snaps. Then he fell back to a 50 with 1,200 snaps. And then with only 94 snaps, he jumped to a 73. So obviously less than 100. I pretend like it doesn't even exist, to be honest with you. So a ceiling of 66 and a floor of 50. So nothing really there.
Yeah.
That's why go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to let everybody know in the chat. It's a shocker here, but Atham's defending the Chiefs. Shocker. I know for Tim. I know for everyone here. Who would have thought?
He's a Chiefs fan. It makes sense, right?
Atham's definitely a Chiefs fan, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
We have come to a consensus agreement here that Atham is definitely a Chiefs fan because 90% of his comments about the Packers are negative, and 90% of his comments about the Chiefs are positive.
Oh, we're gonna give him some.
We may have a resident fake Packer fan.
It's funny too because as soon as we started talking crap about Kelsey, AFAM just showed up in the
just appeared.
He just appeared.
It's like the Undertaker. Just
it says AFAM. Who would you root for in a Super Bowl I rematch? That's what we need to look.
We already know the answer to that.
Yeah. Drew D says that mustache looks like a Chiefs fan. So there you go. That big old caterpillar.
Well, we got to get mad over here for AFAM.
There you go.
Get the belt.
Look, AFAM, you're gonna get the strap.
Is there anything else you guys want to look at here in terms of center? You want me to scroll on down, take a look at anybody else before we kind of go back to some of the higher end free agents here?
I mean, it just seems that Dalman's the guy. It just fits for so many reasons. Yeah.
Right. And again, maybe with the pass blocking, as the chat pointed out, maybe with the pass blocking, you wouldn't go as high as 10, right? Maybe it is kind of try to stay around that $6 million range. But I mean, if you give him a 6-year or a 4-year deal with $6 million on average, what you're essentially looking at, if you do that on a 4-year deal, then you can get out of it in 2 with that low of a cap number. You could definitely get out of it after year 3. So it's like, what do you have to lose? If anything, you're raising the floor of the center position tremendously, right? And then if someone else, if you draft like a Gray Zabel, if he falls to you at some point, you draft him, he beats Dalman out at center. That's not a bad place to be in, having a rookie start at center that's just going to be a dog if he turns out to be, and then having Dalman in your back pocket going, look, man, if we run into trouble, we're set at center, we're okay. We got a veteran that can take care of that. So I can kind of understand both angles of that for sure. So let's see if we can go back now and look at some of the top free agents just at every position here. If we were to just go all positions, this is how it lays out. And again, by annual value, Tim's favorite players at the top of the list here is Stephon Diggs at $22.5 million. For everybody on the pod, Tim is shaking his head. Okay, I want to put it on the record.
How dare you?
So next, you got wide receiver T. Higgins with a previous average annual value of 21.8. You guys know that's going to jump significantly this year if the Bengals franchise tag him again, because you got to tack on that 20% on top of the 100% is how that works with the second franchise tag. Keenan Allen from Chicago, $20 million. Amari Cooper, $20 million, wide receiver from Buffalo. Chris Godwin, my dude, they've got him set at $20 million from a previous average annual value. You guys know I've been pretty vocal. I wouldn't mind to see Chris Godwin on a 3-year deal. I would be okay with that. I think you would be overpaying for great and not overpaying for good. And you don't have to worry about the negative aspect that some people think T. Higgins would bring in-house. But the same thing applies to what Tim's pointed out. I think you pointed it out too, Jacob, is when you pay a receiver that kind of money, that trickles down in the room. And other guys in that room are going to be, hold up, man, when am I getting my money type thing, right? There is a model that you're looking to follow. Any specific positions you guys want to look at? Because, again, when we're looking at actual needs on the team, if we were – and listen, it's extremely early, and some of this may be smoke screening by the Packers. With the prospects that they've visited so far, that they've met with, I listed out those positions. If you were to use that information as gospel, and I don't suggest anyone do it, but if we were just to kind of a little exercise here, it would suggest they're looking to draft defensive line, corner, edge, wide receiver, and offensive line. Okay. Now, with that offensive line being at the 3 mark, that makes me think they're less worried about offensive line maybe than we are. And that would suggest one of 2 things. You're either bringing Josh Myers back, or you truly do, like Rob Demoski and several other people reported last summer, they think the center of the future is already in-house. So is that Elton? Is that Jacob Monk? You know, is it Sean Ryan? Yeah, it could be Zach Tom. That was the other thing that got grouped with that conversation too, was they said Zach Tom was what was it? How was it they said it here?
They said he was a day one, like all-pro center or something like that.
They said he was a great tackle, right? Yeah. He was a all-pro guard, and he was a Hall of Fame center, is what they said. So it's what's most important to you. Now, what did we do last year? We drafted Jordan Morgan, right? So you got a little bit of, could Tom kick the center? Possibly. That wouldn't be the route I would go. I would rather take Elton, who played center all through college. I'd rather put him at center than move Zach Tom to center. That's just me. If you did that, you got 1 year under his belt, or a half a year under Jordan Morgan's belt of playing guard, somewhat familiar. He and Sean Ryan can work out which side they're going to play. And then, of course, add depth. And as you add depth, you may draft someone like Zach Tom this year that you go, we can't keep him off the field. He's too damn good. And he just beats one of these guys out for a job. Preferably Sean Ryan, because he's got 1 year left on his deal, right? And then you just plug and play another rookie there. Sean Ryan's the backup, and then you move on next year. You keep that cap kind of in order. Does all that make sense there?
Yeesh.
All right. Any other positions y'all want to see here in the free agent market?
Can we take a peek at cornerback just to see?
Thank you, Jacob. Reading my mind. Let's look at corners.
All right.
So, corner at the top of the list again. Previous average annual value, Carlton Davis, not Carlton Banks, Carlton Davis out of Detroit. All right, $14.5 million. Charvarius Ward out of San Fran, interesting guy there.
Yep.
His previous average annual value was 13.5. Horrible year last year, but not just on the field, dealing with the death of a child, personal stuff, all that. He's looking to reset this year. That's a guy who, again, before that happened, and I'll pull the grades as we get your all's take on this short list here, and I'll come back to Charvarius Ward. That's a dude that before that happened, man, he was a damn dog. I mean, he was so good. Anybody catch your all's attention here on this initial list?
I know that I was listening earlier. You think Ward? I was listening earlier to a different podcast, and they were talking about how Kendall Fuller got released by the Dolphins. So I wonder if that would impact his maybe kind of value right now. Also, I think it's hilarious that a guy with the last name Okuda, his first name is Jeff. It's just the most off the. Anyways, and then of course don't say anything to Tim, but Rasul Douglas is.
Oh my God! Stop it.
Just saying.
All right, let's see here. So last year in 2023, not this past season, but the year before all that happened to Charvarius, he was the 7th highest graded cornerback at 84.7. Now the problem you're dealing with there is obviously the age, right? He's going to be 30 years old. What are you willing to give him, in terms of how long the contract and how much guaranteed money? That's going to play a role into where he wants to play. DJ Reed was a dude. It seemed like Carlton Davis, DJ Reed, and Byron Murphy were the ones that caught my attention the most.
Yep.
But Charvarius Ward, when you look at what he's done in the past, man, starting in 2018, here were his grades: 68, 65, 64. Then he jumped to a 71. In 2022, he jumped to an 81. In 2023, he jumped to an 84. And then, of course, last year, in the midst of everything that happened, along with injuries, he only played 694 snaps. He dropped to a 56. So that's an interesting prospect there. If we were to look here, just to take a quick gander at his market value, they have him at $15.3 million per. They would set him at a 3-year deal. His comps are Kendall Fuller, Jonathan Jones, Jalen Ramsey, and James Bradbury. When you go through all of the important numbers there in terms of games played percentage, tackles per game, interceptions per game, catch rate per year, and rating allowed, you come up with an average prime percentage change of minus 1.5%, which would set his calculated market value at 3 years, $45.8 million, or an average annual value of 15.2. So with an average annual value of 15.2, if you gave him a 3-year, $45 million deal, depending on whether you would want to front load it or back load it, I could see his cap hit being somewhere around $10 million the first year. And then the second year, it would jump tremendously. But again, with the guaranteed money being able to convert, cash to cap, you could probably keep that somewhere around $10 million per year on average, I would imagine. In terms of his age, I think that's what people are asking in the chat there.
Be 30 this year.
Yeah, he'll be 30 this year. So that's the downside of that, right? Now you could give him a 1 or a 2-year deal and give more guaranteed money. That might, be a little more intriguing for him. But I'm telling you, if you were to sign this 3-year calculated market value deal here, it's essentially a 2-year deal. You probably get out of it in year 3. So therefore it was just a 2-year deal. And you're probably carrying $5 million in dead cap, maybe $3 million in dead cap, something like that. Just depends on the details of the contract, obviously. So that's Charvarius Ward, though. When we talk about some of these other guys, like Byron Murphy caught my attention.
There's the guy that I want right here.
Yeah,
here. Let's steal somebody from the Vikings.
Start stealing some guys for once from them.
27 right. Too. Look at that. Still got plenty of years left.
This is the problem for me, though. 22 million is whoa. You know what I mean? And again, that's his calculated market value based off of the comparable players. Marlon Humphrey, Marshawn Lattimore, Patrick Surtain II, and Denzel Ward.
That's crazy.
Those are big names, right? I think we would all agree those are pretty big names there. And again, with his average prime percentage change, it's a positive 18.3%. And what we mean by that is like he outperformed the average of those 4 players. Like if I were to tell you, you could go out and get a player that's comparable to a Marlon Humphrey, Marshawn Lattimore, Patrick Surtain II, and Denzel Ward, you go, hey, it's a pretty damn good player, right? Well, game play percentage, he exceeded them. They averaged 90.7, right? His was 91.1. Tackles per game, they averaged 3.02. He averaged 3.39. Interceptions per game, they averaged 0.14. Byron Murphy averaged 0.29, almost double, right? Catch rate per year, 57.8. His was a 68.8. So that's the only negative, the first negative in this little exercise here. And then rating allowed, or maybe it's just rating in general, I believe it is. No, that's rating allowed, I think, right? Doesn't specify there. Catch rate per year and rating. So anyway, 71.9. His is a 65.3. I think the lower number is better there, although it's showing a negative, minus 9.15. So you come up with a median prime percentage change of a positive 0.45%, and average prime percentage change of a positive 18%. And that's why that's blimped up a little bit. It says after calculating your prime percentage figures into our base calculated value, we're given 2 values. The average of these values becomes our current calculated market value of 4 years, $88.3 million, with an average annual of $22 million. On the surface, that seems a little rich to me, but that's the market. The market is what it is. And again, these numbers last year, Tim, you remember we were breaking down free agents last year in the open market. It seemed like the majority of these numbers that they were projecting ended up being less than what they actually got. Is that how you remember it too? You're muted again, Bubba.
Yeah, kind of. I kind of remember that.
Yeah, it seems like that's what I was coming away with going like Bobby Wagner, right? We were going, man, that projected market value, great, but he ended up getting significantly more than what this projected market value gave. So
I think that's the way you'd rather look at it, though, right? I'd rather overestimate a little than underestimate and be like, "Holy crap! Look at the contract," you know?
Yeah, good point. So, what are we thinking? If you had to sign him to that deal, are we feeling the same about that, boys? And in terms of PFF, let me give you an update on that too.
I like what J. Cole said here. He thinks the Vikings will take him. Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, I can see that being a possibility. Although I want to say that franchise tag for corner is fairly high. I try to run it through the filter of would I be willing to do that? I wouldn't be willing to tag him. That's just
right.
Me.
I know he wasn't on the franchise possibility list that we looked at the other night, but like you said, if that number is as high as I think it probably would be, I don't know. I don't know. He's one of those guys where like he's shown flashes, but I feel like he's just maybe I can't say what I want to say. I'm glad I stopped myself. He's the tallest short person in the room, I think.
Jacob has grown so much, man.
I'm trying so hard, guys. It's just maybe he's the standout of a so-so group of free agents, maybe kind of thing. I don't want to pay that. I just don't. You guys know me and my cheapness, but
here, if I were to remove the name and say, all right, guys, would you be willing to give a 4-year, $22 million per year average salary to a guy whose PFF grades were this: 48, 64, 58, 66, 58, 73.
Nope, I'll just keep Ja.
So I'm glad we walked through that because on the surface, he was one of the guys I had there listed, right? Now, if you could get him for $15 million per, feel a little bit better about it. But that seems like the absolute definition of overpaying for above average, not even overpaying for good, right? So somebody will pay it probably. You know how it goes. So I like to glance. Like I've got a bunch of different windows open right now and trying to set this stuff up to keep the show flowing. And I like to glance occasionally to the chat just to see what's going on. The first thing I see is 2-0 for this. Boil the sausage in beer, then drink the sausage beer.
Yeah, don't trust me. Don't watch the chat.
I'm over here going, man, I hope we're providing a quality product, because I'm so tied up and I look and I go, okay, they're entertaining themselves. We're good. Right. So, all right. With that being said, I think we're all three kind of out on Byron Murphy. DJ Reed's one that's gotten brought up, right? We'll hit this one and then we'll wrap up. Go ahead, read it, Jacob.
Why is AFAM talking about himself in the third person?
He's been doing it the whole time.
He's done that since day one. All right.
AFAM has been doing that for a while.
To be fair, he is consistent. He is nothing but consistent.
So the other one that got people's attention was DJ Reed. It seems like there was people there. I want to say it was Emilio that was kind of excited about him. 28 years old. Obviously, his previous average annual salary was 11. Now, this looks a little more doable. You know what I mean? $14.7 million on a 4-year deal. Y'all are out of control, man. I can't do this. I can't take it. Let's go to DJ Reed real quick and see what we've got on him, man. In terms of PFF, if I were to tell you get a player for a 4-year deal, which we know would essentially be a 3-year deal at $14.7 million, and he graded out this way: 66, 75, 75, 78, 72, 77, and a 70.
Take that.
I feel a lot better about that than the aforementioned, right? So, what do y'all think about that, man? DJ Reed here out of
what Drew says. How is that possible? Honestly, why?
Well, let's look real quick, right? Let's look at the comp players: Charvarius Ward, AJ Terrell, William Jackson, and Jair Alexander. Okay, so let's see why that's the case here. Okay. Charvarius Ward, well, all of them averaged up together. Play time, games played percentage 79. DJ Reed jumped to an 85, or is higher than them at 85, so a positive 7.26. Tackles per game, they averaged 2.5. He averaged 3.9. Interceptions per game, they averaged 0.06. His was slightly lower, actually 50% lower when you look at it at a 0.03. Catch rate per year, 54.9. His was a 59.8, so he lost a little bit there as well. And then rating, 69.9. His was a 74.3. So for me, that interception thing is what's really bringing his average down, right? Is the fact that they doubled him in interceptions per game percentage, if that makes sense. So That's the main thing according to Spot Track. And again, just like PFF, this isn't everything. That's what's bringing him down there, right? So it says after applying our prime percentage figures into our base calculated value, we're given two values. The average of these values becomes more current calculated market value of 4 years, 58.6 with an average salary of 14.6. I wanted to say too, was he a slot corner, Tim? Do you see why am I thinking he played in the slot?
I think so.
Let's see, snap alignment. No,
I watched a lot of Jets football last year. So
last year he had 906 snaps on the corner and only 15 in the slot. So he's definitely an outside corner.
Boundary guy.
Dude, yeah, that seems more and more like he's the guy. I mean, if we're gonna pull the trigger on any sort of free agent cornerback, that just seems like it fits, man.
We talked about this too. We may have to go to free agency for corner because if we don't take one early in the draft, it's going to be kind of slim pickings there.
Yeah. Especially if we do lose Jair. I mean, it's just almost a must.
Right.
Yep. Even if we don't, it's still a must. We probably got to get at least one or two.
Now, in terms of where these players are in the draft, like you were just talking about, Tim, where have the Packers shown interest? They met with Trey Amos, outside corner, right? He's in the 53 spot for us. So that would be second-round pick, right? The next corner is a versatile corner, so he can play slot and outside. That's Jacob Parrish. He's in the 133 spot for us, all right? Tim, do you have PFF pulled up by chance?
I sure do. What do you want me to look up here?
What I want to know is I just want to know where PFF has them on their big board, okay? Where do they have Trey Amos? If you just sort by corners, you should be able to
is 33rd overall, 20th corner.
Okay, so just give me the overall. Then you said 33rd. We've got him at 53. So keep in mind, PFF thinks he's worthy of a borderline first-round pick. So if you're going to get him, it's going to take him falling significantly in the second round based off of PFF, or us reaching a little bit and getting him. And that might have been why Goody looked at him. Is he worthy of that 23rd pick, right? Yep. Some people had him mocked to the Packers. It was either Kyle Krabs or it was Daniel Jeremiah had him mocked. Next, Tim, is cornerback Jacob Parrish. I've got him in the 134 spot. Where does PFF have him on their big board overall?
Jacob Parrish has him at 120.
Okay, so slightly higher than where we got him. So that's you're looking at. Let me pull up real quick so we don't misspeak here. So you're looking at what round pick there? Fourth, possibly, maybe a fourth round pick. Be a reach for a third, maybe a fourth. All right, next corner is Kobe Bryant, Cobee Bryant. I've got him at 157. He's an outside corner. Where does PFF have him?
Kansas, Kobe is 103 on PFF.
So they got him a lot higher than we do. Again, we've got him at 157. PFF has him as a borderline top 100 pick. So if you were going to go after Kobe Bryant, you would have to probably take him with the third round pick there at 87. Or hope he falls to 123. We need to update the pick. I want to say we got another pick added, but you probably already put it on there, Tim. So we're good. Tim's on it, man. Corey Thornton, Tim, Thornton. I've got him at 188. He's an outside corner.
Let's search him. Thornton.
He may not be listed either.
I don't even see him on here. Hold on a second.
There's a couple of them like that for sure.
Yeah, I don't see him on PFF.
Okay. So Corey Thornton would be around the 187 spot. The Packers, or 188, the Packers met with him. Next is Quincy Riley, outside corner. I've got him at 227. Quincy Riley, corner.
Yeah, PFF has Quincy Riley at 151.
Significantly higher than we do. So that would be more of what would that be, Jacob? Like a fourth or a fifth round or something like that?
Yeah. Is that the Louisville guy?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Doc in the chat brings up a good point, though. He says Goot has not drafted a cornerback that's shorter than 6 feet tall and heavier than 190. Basically, he says that would eliminate Reed because he's only 5'9" and 188 pounds. Not quite sure if that is.
So Jair Alexander's 6 feet tall?
I don't know. I don't think so.
With his cleats on, yeah.
We all are. All right, next. That's a good point, though. Next is a safety, Tim, but he's got slot snaps, okay?
Here we go. Now you're speaking my language.
It's going to be Jonas Sanker. Sanker, I hardly know her. 239 is where he's at on our board.
102 on PFF's board.
It's a big difference. Big difference in our board from theirs. That's wild. So they're saying, hey, you probably have to use a third-round pick to get Jonas Sanker, and I'm saying he might be worthy of a seventh-round pick, you know? It's going to be interesting to see as we get the rest of the information in just how high he raises because the Packers are interested in him, evidently. Next is Mac McWilliams, versatile cornerback. I've got him at 253, so he's definitely a corner. Mac McWilliams.
Is that the UCF guy?
Yep,
Okay.
UCF, 5'10", 185. He is 257 on PFF, so pretty close to us.
Real close. So those are the corners that the Packers have shown interest in so far. I just wanted to kind of point out where they're at and how many. That's the second most position that Goody has shown interest in, or at least the scouts have shown interest in so far. Defensive tackle first at 7, cornerback with 6, then edge and wide receiver with 4, O-line 3, linebacker 2, and then 1 for each of the positions of tight end, slot corner, and kicker. So if you threw slot corner in with corner there, and Sanker is that dude that I was talking about, you actually would be tied between defensive line and corner. Again, you want to know what kind of value somebody places, how much value is placed on something. You look at their checkbook and their calendar, right? Where are the Packers spending their time? Defensive tackle and corner, it sounds like right now. So I don't know, boys, after what we talked about last night and the fact that Rob Demoski reported that within the organization, it kind of feels like the Packers might be wanting to get that information out there. Could be wrong, but it could be Rob kind of going rogue. I want a little behind baseball here too. People commented on the tweet I put out about Rob Demoski, and they said, "Yeah, but Rob, he hates the Packers and he doesn't blah blah blah." They made it sound as if Rob Demoski he and the Packers don't like each other. Guys, I've been to his office in Lambeau Field. He's got an office right across from the media auditorium. Okay. The Packers didn't like him. They wouldn't say, here's just some office space to set up downstairs. Okay. It's literally right across the hall where the media press conferences happen. So I'm not saying that he and Goody are close. I'm not saying he and Russ Ball are close. I'm simply saying they allow him to work in the basement of Lambeau Field. I have a hard time believing he's in there sabotaging the hell out of the Packers. I'm just saying. Yep. Information gets leaked out by one of two sources, either a team source, in this case, that's what Rob's saying, or an agent from the players' camp trying to push something along as well in terms of wanting a trade or wanting a new contract to put pressure on each other. I just wanted to put that out there. Whether you like Rob or not, I've never had a negative experience with him. It would just take one for me to hate him, just like some people would, sure, because that's just how I roll. If somebody crosses me, I'm done with your ass. So I'm not trying to justify, hey, Rob's a great. I don't know Rob. And Rob damn sure doesn't even know who I am. He doesn't even know I exist. So I just want to point that out, though. The people on Twitter that were like, he hates the Packers. He's trying to sabotage them. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Rob's just one of those rare things you see in the media nowadays. A reporter trying
honest.
And objective, trying to be objective when you're covering the team. So I think he catches a lot of hate.
Drew D brought up a good point where he talked about how he used to be a beat writer before he got hired by ESPN, and everybody loved him. And then to be fair though, once you turn to the dark side and throw on that evil empire cloak, I get it.
It's a good point. Prince in the chat said Demoski and Silverstein, if you want to link info. Absolutely. Yep. To me, Silverstein, when Silverstein speaks, some people say Silverstein, some people say Silverstein. I listened to the damn podcast. One host called him Silverstein. The next host called him Silverstein. I'm going, I don't know what to do here.
Potato.
Exactly. So here's the way it is, in my opinion. If you were to take every single reporter that covers the Packers and go, who's closest to the front office? It's Spoon. It's Silverstein. Yep. Hands down, my opinion. Demoski is, in my opinion, that dude, like you said, came up through the beat, which Tom probably did too. He hadn't been there quite as long as Spoon. But he's come up through the beat. He's got the job with ESPN. that's a great thing to have when they do NFL Nation and they go kind of around the league with these reporters. He's the guy who represents the Packers in that segment on ESPN. So I think that's very well put there, Prince. That again, when Silverstein says something, I run it through the filter, but also with the possibility that it couldn't be true. It might not be true, but I feel like that came from the front office. Hey, get that out there for us, type thing. That makes sense. So, yeah.
Drew D said, "Have Wildy ask questions if you want to filibuster."
Yeah, he likes the long questions for sure. And again, man, everybody's got their own style, and he's defended himself in that. Jason Wildy has said, "Hey, look, I ask them long for a reason because I'm trying to get. It's not about my question; it's about the answer. I can respect that, but man, I'm telling you, it's hard to listen to sometimes, and that's where we got the infamous Rich Bisaccia drop from. Was
you're an amazing person? You know that, don't you?"
Rich was just like, "Bruh, yeah, you're amazing. You're amazing." So. Anyway, I love their show, though, Wildy and Tausch. I really enjoy it, man. I think there's good information there. They got former players on. And I'm telling you right now, man, did anybody else grow up watching Jerry Springer when you were a kid?
You skipped school. You skipped school. You had to watch that or Price is Right.
Chicken noodles.
I went to high school with a guy whose brother was on Jerry Springer. Crazy. Small world.
Tim was that inner city kid for sure, man. He got to experience some stuff. No, but if you like the whole old school Jerry Springer, if you'll just watch the first 30 minutes of every Wildy and Tausch, they're like a married couple. It's like right off the bat, they end up getting into an argument over something, and it's hilarious, in my opinion. Because Wildy would try to poke him, right? And Tausch has like one of the best personalities, in my opinion. His sense of humor is very kind of, shrug it off. Backhand the hell out of you, and then you're going, wait, did he just backhand me? You know? And then of course Wildy will get sensitive and say something back. It's just hilarious, man.
Afam, you didn't have to tell us. We all knew, brother. All right. He says, I've actually been to a Jerry Springer recording.
Now we need to comb through the tape and try to find that mustache.
Steve Wilkos is just pulling him out, and he's like, no, the Chiefs are great.
There's a clip of Afam on Steve's back, and Steve just throwing them around like a gnat, right? Yeah. Number one Packer fan. It all makes sense now. It makes so much sense. Yeah, that'll be the next clip. All right, this show sucks. We're done. Anything else y'all want to hit on before we wrap up, gents?
Just a personal note. My father last night I was talking to him. I was like, man, Gladiator 2 wasn't as bad as people said. He goes, I've never seen Gladiator. And I was like, wow. You gotta leave the family. Like, I'm ashamed of having your name, sir. He watched it last night.
I want a DNA test.
He's like, he goes, oh, that was a really good movie. I'm like, no, Sherlock, you know, it's like only one of the top 10, maybe top 20 movies of all time.
It's great. I haven't seen the second one. I'm sure it's good. I've said this before. I'm the easiest critic on movies. I'm not a big movie guy, so I can watch a movie and kind of appreciate it for what it is, as opposed to other people are like, well, out of the 375 films I've seen in the last 4 years, I think this is ranked in the top 30. So I can't do it. But I need to watch the second one. I like anything that takes you back in history and kind of paints a picture of what things were like. Yeah. I find myself looking in the background like, how were the building structured back? You know what I mean?
Gladiator 2 is great only because Denzel goes full Denzel. He's like Training Day Denzel, where you're like, oh yeah, it's not historically accurate. That's the biggest knock on it, but it's definitely worth the watch. Definitely.
Got it. All right. Tim, anything else, Bo?
Yeah, I saw Too Old for This. My first movie in theaters was Gladiator when I was 4. Then why is your name Too Old for This?
Yeah, what's going on?
There's no way you're old enough to be too old.
Exactly. Yeah, that and Braveheart, when I watch those two, they kind of move me a little bit, you know. And again, Hollywood's going to screw it up by trying to make it, like, the story's good enough. You don't have to change it. You know, they'll try to add little things here and there to glam it up. One of my favorite movies that I kind of compare to something like a Gladiator or that type of movie, if you guys haven't seen it, Risen, is about, you know,
that's a good one.
It's about the resurrection of Jesus, and it's the way they did it. There's a little Hollywood in it, so some of it is very it's a little bit, you know, I don't know, off the, not I don't think there's anything in the movie that you can go, well, that's not true. But you do find yourself going, well, they took a little liberty there. We don't know if that happened. But it takes you through the eyes. It shows the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and it does it through the eyes of a Roman soldier who was hired to, hey, put this uprising down. You know, these people are lying. They stole the body. And, man, it's good. It's really good. And once again, that movie, the thing that grabbed my attention was just seeing what the Holy Land was like back then. And they did a good job of recreating everything. It's a good movie. It's called Risen. So, yeah, if you guys get a chance, check it out. It's a good film. So, anyway, that being said, we're out of here. Appreciate you all's time. This was fun. I was going to stretch it out a little bit longer. But you know what? Let's just wrap it up. We're good. We're in the midst of the off season. So we got important dates coming up. The 18th is the first day that teams can slap the franchise tag on some of these players. I think we listed 3 or 4 yesterday that could potentially get the franchise tag. T. Higgins is one, although I could see him not doing it. We'll get that information start coming out of the pocket. I want to say they got something like a month or two before they have to finalize who they put the franchise tag on. There's a little bit of a delay there. It's not like they have to happen right off the bat. But also coming up here around between the 20th and the 25th, you should start hearing some rumblings about contract restructures. That's when I think we'll get the decision on Jair. Is if we get a restructure, he's staying. You know, if we don't hear about a restructure, still on the table, they could cut him or trade him and move on. So with that being said, appreciate you guys. This was a lot of fun. We will see you tonight at 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. Everybody in the chat, thank you for being a part of the show. Hit that like button for us. Thank y'all for being so vocal in here. And, yeah, everybody have a great day. Talk to you soon.
And we go. We out.
Bye, guys.